man. I do what I do.
Part because my mom bathes me and my brothers all together, and out of nowhere I locked up, and then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing, and he said stop playing with me, and I start. And then I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow. And then as soon as he said that, we was speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital. And then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, nah, we gonna have to go in this brain tonight. Ever since then, I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going until my gas tanks run out. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
You see that? That boy sounds like he 13 going on 50. You see? When you look at his stature, you look at how he looks, you know, he's not threatening, you see? But nevertheless, you know, this is not an accident. It's the same dynamic that has historically been used to control and exploit Black people, and you know, to push a narrative. And what happened with DJ is not just about politics; it's about how Black people, especially those with disabilities or unique characteristics, have been used as mascots. I have some footage, of not really necessarily footage, but some image. I think you all have probably seen this before. This is Gary Coleman. You guys remember Gary Coleman from Different Strokes? This was a show when I was young, came out in the 1970s. He is, I think, how old was he? Like 20 something years old on this photograph here, right? Non-threatening, little Black boy. His little, what you talk about, Will? Is harmless. These sort of things, you know, wise beyond his years. It's the same thing. Now, you guys remember what happened to him in his older life when he got older? He was forgotten about. He went from being America's little darling little pet, you know, Black, you know, mascot, to just being straight up forgotten about. What about Emmanuel Lewis? You guys know who this is? Emmanuel Lewis, he had a show. I mean, they used to literally carry this kid. They used to carry him around. Okay. Harmless little Black mascot. And of course, we have some more of the harsher things. Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben, right? More mascots type stuff. You understand? You see? Now, again, I am, you know, everyone wants DJ to have his moment. And we need to recognize the pattern at play. You know, the celebration of DJ is not just about him, it's about reinforcing these larger political and racial narratives. It's almost like they're getting 2, 3 for 1. You see? It's not enough to simply praise DJ. And look, praise him, celebrate him. I'm saying, but let's understand, because see, this is not the first time. So do you guys know who I think her name is, they call her Sarah, but I think her real name was Saartjie Bartman. You guys know who that is? You guys know who Saartjie Bartman is? I'm gonna put this in the chat room. I want you guys to, at some point, look this name up. She was also a mascot. It's a famous story. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it. Let me see if I can pull a photograph up of this woman who was taken and kidnapped from South Africa. Okay. And she was brought to, was it France? Let me let you guys see what she looked like. And she was kept in a cage. And I'm not saying she was kept in a cage all the time, but when we talk about Black people as mascots, one of the most infamous and disturbing examples is Miss Saartjie Bartman. They say Sarah Bartman, but it's really pronounced Saartjie. So yeah, we'll just say Sarah Bartman. But she was also known as the Hottentot Venus. And you know, her story is, and they, you know, they were fascinated by her because of her derriere. And this is some images of her, you know, that I'm highlighting. But her story is, it's a brutal representation of how black bodies, especially those that didn't conform to Western norms, were used as spectacles and mascots and symbols to reinforce these white supremacist colonial and scientific racism. Okay. And her tragic, the life was tragic, it was the life of exploitation, you see, a long history of um, dehumanization, right? People turning them into entertainment objects and objects of curiosity, you see. So Sarah was born in the early 1780s, and she was from a place, I don't want to mispronounce the name, but I believe it's Khoik, Kiosha. She's the Kiosha ethnic group in South Africa. And during this time, you know, South Africa was a site of colonial conquest with the Dutch and the British settlers. They had expanded control, and Miss Bartman's people, the Kioshas, and I hope I'm saying that name right, they were an indigenous group and they suffered under her colonialization. Now, I'm saying she was just put on display, but you also have to realize that she was also trafficked. And so I want to make sure we acknowledge that, because they found, you know, her body, will say, different and amazing, and they wanted to explore it in a very, you know, vile way. You see what I mean? So she was taken from her homeland and transported to Europe. First, she ended up in England, then she ended up in France. And then they put her on display in an exotic, as an exotic curiosity. And she's, you know, she was not exhibited as a person, but as a thing. She was an object. She was something meant to be both amuse and reinforce these racist European ideas about black bodies and black inferiority. And Miss Bartman, she was displayed in cages and freak shows. And she was forced to parade nearly naked in front of European audiences. Right? And they viewed her as something between an animal and a human. This is I believe this is a famous photograph of her here. You see? And the main feature that made her this object of fascination and ridicule was her large buttocks. You see? Now that's a natural, shout out to Barry Little. Now that's a natural physical trait of her people in South Africa, but something the Europeans saw as grotesque or hypersexual. European men and European women would pay money to stare at her body and poke her and prod her and even touch her. She was paraded around as entertainment and often forced to dance and perform like an animal. She was placed alongside animals and exhibits, and this reinforced ideas that she was, you know, closer to nature and less evolved than Europeans. And this wasn't just cruelty for amusement; it was also a calculated tool of white supremacy. By presenting a black woman in this way, Europeans were making a clear statement: black people were different; they were the other. They were meant to be observed and studied and used for white curiosity. They were considered inferior, primitive, and even subhuman. And this is how mascots function. They're not real. They're not fully recognized individuals, but instead they're symbols used for a larger agenda. Bartman's exploitation, it wasn't just about entertainment. Shout out to Fuzzy Balls. It was also about science. Because see, in the 19th century, European scientists were obsessed with racial classification. They were trying to prove that black people were inherently inferior to white people. So they were out there measuring skulls and noses and body proportions, and they were claiming that African features were signs of primitiveness. They argued that black people were biologically closer to apes than white folks. They saw Miss Bartman as a living example of their racial theories, and they tried to use her body as proof that black women were different and less evolved. And here's the cold part about it. Even after she died in 1815, her body wasn't even allowed to rest. They literally took this woman and dissected her corpse and preserved her genitals and her brain in jars and put them on display in a museum for 100 years. You understand that? Her even after she had passed, her remains were used as scientific curiosity, reinforcing racist theories about black inferiority. Now, let's connect that to what we see happening right now. While we no longer see black people in cages for public amusement, the core idea of using black people as mascots, it remains. Miss Bartman was used to confirm European superiority. That little baby, that little boy DJ is being used to confirm Republican political superiority and white benevolence. And it's disturbing to people who can see it. Both of them were put on display for white approval, right? Bartman was forced to perform in front of a European audience who saw her as a spectacle. DJ, a little sick black child in a police uniform, is paraded in front of all this Republican audience to make a political point. Both of them serve as tools for reinforcing an agenda. Bartman was used to justify white supremacy and scientific racism. DJ is used to force black Democrats into a contradiction and reinforcing conservative narratives. Both were stripped of their individual identity. Bartman wasn't seen as a woman with feelings. She was an object of curiosity. DJ, this child, is not being seen as a child fighting cancer. He's seen as a symbol. What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the broadcast. This is Uncle D. People wash their ass in the tub, Kamala Harris.
You were tuned in to Uncle D. D's Black Man Talk. Pull up, homie, take a seat. Don't be a shadow watcher every day. You learn something, then you earn something. Let them know and drop some money in the plate. It's getting cold, ladies, talking ratchet. Blizzard King here, grab your coat, zip your jacket. Keep quiet for a second, close your jaw. Attorney Spurling, this ain't pearly, know the law. Talking Constitution, pushing pins when he shootin', give him that. Masculinity, just for the record, sprinkle that. You can keep your cat, gotta cut it. Only cat he rubbing, gotta love it. I call it Molly Buddy. Gotta vote your interest, voting earns. Presidential, this is for the money that I earn. When you gon' learn, my people, that evil mixed with evil. No matter what you're doing, baby, this ain't equal. Sometimes when you're special, you get hated. The test is for the best, you're damn right, my people made it. Uncle D, Blizzard King, you've been served, gotta notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you've been served, get your notice now. Black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now.
Hey man, I'll do what I do.
Somebody need to whip your ass.
Get up and whip him, Sweets.
Hey, don't be putting the money in my hand all rough.
Take your ass out here. You buy you a Flowbee and cut your own damn hair from now on.